Okay, welcome to our City Council meeting this evening. We're going to have a call it to order here, and I'm going to have a roll call by our City Clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The record shall reflect that all members are present.
If you'll all rise and join us, we're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Melendez.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. I'd like to remind everyone that the Vista Municipal Code requires members of the public to observe order and decorum at the meeting and to conduct themselves in a courteous manner. The ordinance was adopted to allow the public for public input and to facilitate city business without disruption of our meeting. Applause is appropriate for the items listed under the presentation portion of the agenda only. Students wishing to receive credit for attending this evening's meeting must stay for a minimum of 1 hour. However, we ask that you stay for the completion of an item rather than leaving in the middle of a discussion. When you're ready to leave, you can ask one of the sheriff deputies or a staff member in the back of the room to sign your paper. To speak on an item on the agenda, please fill out a speaker slip with the number of the item you want to speak on and give it to the clerk, secretary, staff. The speaker slips are available on the table just outside the City Council chambers, and speakers will have 3 minutes to address the City Council. And with that, we had a closed session today, and we're going to bring us out of closed session, and we're going to have a report out by our City Attorney, Walter Chung.
Thank you, Mayor. In closed session, the council voted unanimously to appoint Amanda Lee as acting city attorney at an annual salary of $265,000. And city manager. Thank you.
That's okay.
And because of that, and to formalize it, I would recommend that the mayor take item D3 out of order now so that the action can be formalized in open session.
Okay, with that, we'll take item D3, which is appointment of the acting city manager. And are you going to do a staff report? It says City Attorney Walter Chung will provide the staff report.
There's no technical staff report unless someone wants a report.
No, so I'm looking for a motion and a second then. Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Madam Mayor, I would offer a motion to adopt a resolution as drafted by staff indicating that the City Council desires to appoint Amanda Lee as acting city manager effective immediately. The City Council appoints Amanda Lee as acting city manager at the annualized salary of $265,000 effective immediately.
Councilmember Green.
I'd like to second that motion.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm if we have any speakers on this item.
Did we have what?
Any speakers?
Oh, no, we have no speakers on this item.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I would ask for a roll call vote. That motion passes unanimously. And that takes us, so congratulations to Amanda here next to me, our acting city attorney here. So we have 2 presentations. There she is. It's amazing. Poof. We have 2 presentations this evening, and they are, first, like to recognize Pride Industries. We have a letter of appreciation and some certificates we'd like to present. I'd like to invite the council down with me, and I'd like to invite Cassandra Silva, David Cuevos, Brian Garbark, Dawn Horworth, Eric Shepard, Kevin Brown, Armando Martinez, Gabriel Zeker, and Andy Bowman to join us down here at the podium.
Amanda, add that to the folder.
And I'm going to read the letter of appreciation here. So, this letter of appreciation is presented to Pride Industries staff who provide litter and recyclables pickup services along the city roadways. In 1966, a group of parents came together to discuss how to create opportunities for their adult children with disabilities. These parents came up with a solution that enabled their children to experience the dignity, independence, and sense of purpose that comes with employment. The solution was Pride Industries. Pride Industries has grown to become the nation's leading employer of people with disabilities and those with other barriers to employment, including veterans and former foster youth. Pride employs individuals in diverse fields, including manufacturing and logistics and facilities management, all made possible by a wide spectrum of support services. Since 1987, Pride Industries has worked to keep Vista beautiful. Pride Industries has become an integral component in the city's stormwater pollution prevention program, which reduces the amount of trash flowing to the waterways. Pride cleans over 29 streets in the city of Vista each month, walking around 27 miles. From January 2022 to September 2022, Pride picked up 915 bags of litter and 313 bags of recyclable litter. In 2015, the City of Vista was awarded the Partner Award from Pride, formerly known as Partnership with Industry, or PWI, recognizing the city's work with Pride. The Vista City Council offers its sincere gratitude for Pride Industries' partnership and service to the community. So congratulations to all of these guys who help us with our litter and this is the letter of appreciation. Right, this goes to,
Would you like to accept it on behalf of everyone?
He is the one that has been working the longest.
okay. There we go.
Here's Amanda, we can take a picture.
I think you did.
Oh, yeah, we have a certificate for each of them. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see, this one is for,
You have names? Okay. Where's Kevin Brown? Here, Kevin, need another one. We'll do it here. Gabriel Ziegler. Zeiger. Armando Martinez.
Right here.
Hey, Armando. Andy Bowman. Where's Andy?
Andy Bowman
Not
cannot
here. Eric Shepard. Who am I missing? Am I missing somebody? Nope, I got everybody? Okay, who will take this for Andy? Okay, so now a picture, right?
Yes.
What, in front? Okay.
front of this.
Well, yeah.
All right, let's go right in front of here.
And our next presentation is the Vista Chamber of Commerce CEO Rachel Bell. She's going to present findings from the ARPA-funded Workforce Development Study. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Sorry, let me just get myself organized here, if you don't mind. I've reached the point where I need these guys, so. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. As you said, I'm Rachel Bell. I'm the CEO of the Vista Chamber of Commerce, and I'm really happy to be here with you this evening to share the results of a workforce development study that, thanks to ARPA funds and the City Council's direction, you allocated funds for this study. So I'll just jump right in. As we've all had many discussions about the effects of the pandemic, many of these discussions revolve around how things have changed in the world, our perceptions, and quite frankly, our daily lives. As we continue to feel the effects over the past few years, there's some things to take note of. The downturn in the economy was not one that was created by a natural economic cycle, but rather it was induced by the pandemic. As we all know, it happened so fast that everyone felt it in a very dramatic way. Life as we knew it changed literally in a matter of weeks. And yes, we all felt it. However, as we begin to take a look at what was felt, who was impacted, and to what degrees they were impacted, it tells a very different story. When we look back at what happened in the economy, it became very clear that there were industries that were harder hit than others. Jobs in certain parts of the economy were lost at a greater rate than others. And as we take a deeper look at the data, there were specific communities and populations that were adversely affected by the economic downturn more than others. The pandemic, while it induced the economic downturn, was not the cause of the disparities in the economy. It revealed them in a very stark and impactful way. We saw communities of color, people that had lower educational attainment, people that were in entry-level jobs, lower income communities, and youth, all directly and equitably impacted by the economy because they lost their jobs at a much higher rate than everyone else. The Vista Chamber of Commerce recently undertook a study that looked at the effect of the pandemic on our transitioning residents and businesses to determine what we might do to better serve our businesses and residents given the current economic landscape. So let's talk about that economic landscape for a quick moment. There have been several narratives emerging at the national and state level. And as I just talked about, one of the national storylines was around the real disparities and inequities in the economy and the labor market. We're finding that the disparities in many ways are systemic and require some significant efforts and investments to address. Another storyline has been this notion of the Great Resignation, where people were leaving or quitting their jobs in droves and were just exiting the labor market entirely. The data doesn't actually support this story, however. The data tells us that the majority of those who quit their jobs went on to get better or higher paying jobs. This makes sense given that another storyline that emerged was there was a massive labor shortage. We hear this even locally when businesses continue to report that they can't find anyone to come to work. Now employers are not just competing for talent, but also finding new, innovative ways to incentivize applicants to consider them. There's been a direct effect on wages they're willing to pay, and this upward pressure on wages and benefits in order to attract workers is in part where we're appropriately calling this the Great Transition rather than the Great Resignation. So this gives us a view into some opportunities for Vista transitioners and residents. Let's take a look at a few things of note. The quit rate is equivalent to the percentage of the total employment that quit their job in a given month. However, this does not consider the fact that people quit to take a higher paying position. If you take a look at the first chart, you'll see that 2022 had a higher quit rate compared to that last year, which has leveled off in the past few months. 2021 had more unemployed folks than job openings, which changed in 2022 with less than one unemployed person per job opening. And we know that a high quit rate with a low ratio of unemployment equals an upward pressure on wages. Nationally, data suggests that industries with the largest quit rates were those that were the most impacted during the pandemic: retail, trades, accommodation, and food services. In our study area, we focused on Vista residents and within a commute area. We know that the commute area for City of Vista residents has been an ideal commute area, I should say, for the City of Vista residents has been identified as about 27 minutes. The southern boundary is essentially the 56, and the northern boundary being Camp Pendleton and Fallbrook. In Vista and the commute area, the most affected occupations in terms of job loss as a result of the pandemic were manufacturing, accommodation and food services, retail and trade, and educational services. So if we look at the Vista demographics according to the 2020 census, the 2020 census tells us that there were approximately 99,000 population in Vista. It's a little lower than some of the numbers we've heard quoted by the city, but it's from the census, so we'll go with it. And we know that from the census, 50%, just over 50% of our population is Hispanic, 38.4% white, 4.3% Asian, 3.1% Black, and 4% other. We also know, with regard to Vista educational attainment, that 25% of working age Vista residents have a bachelor's degree or higher, 32% have some college education, and 43% have a high school diploma or less. So this shows us Vista in general. So let's talk about who's transitioning now. As the economy begins to recover, many jobs like accommodation, retail, and food services come back and people went to work there. People return to work at the same low-paying jobs, which is why they become transitioners. And those who do transition experienced an increase in wages of 10%, while those that stayed in their current positions experienced a 2% loss in real wages. This is a direct result of the earlier conversation around upward pressure on wages due to the labor shortage. So beyond the wages, people were also transitioning to jobs with a better career path, or those that connected to their own personal values. So let's talk about who's transitioning and why. For this study, we are looking at essentially 3 subsets of the population. Adult upskillers, these are folks looking for better paying jobs, promotionability, better career path. Women transitioning back to the workforce, and we know that in 2021, we had 43% of women return to work within a year of giving birth, and then in 22, 62% of women would return to work after giving birth within 1 year. And then we also looked at military transitioners. We all know that San Diego County is a military town, and our close proximity to Camp Pendleton and Miramar, many veterans live in Vista. Nationwide data shows that military transitioners over the age of 25 tend to find employment in their first year transitioning to civilian life at a much higher rate than those under the age of 25. What's really interesting in the data is when we look at the education attainment of City of Vista residents compared to veterans. This slide shows that comparative educational attainment. In comparison to the general resident population, which includes those transitioning adults and the women transitioners, veterans typically have a higher educational attainment, and this provides for potential expanded opportunities in the regional economy for veteran transitioners. As we studied the labor market in the City of Vista for the 3 transition groups, women, upskillers, and veterans, we looked at the opportunities within Vista and within that 27 ideal commute area, as well as compared to San Diego County. And we identified those that met our intent to provide wage and career progression opportunities. Additionally, we were looking for opportunities that were within the reach of the profiles of our transitional groups. Essentially, we were identifying jobs that didn't necessarily require a college degree, but did have higher wages, opportunity for wage and career growth, and were either within Vista or within that reasonable commute distance. So we found that these 5 industries clusters were the most relevant to our transitioning groups, their education and their skill levels. So we have construction, professional and scientific and technical services, defense, automotive and transportation, manufacturing, public administration, and utilities. This slide shows a summary of the number of each industry cluster jobs available, the top titles and the average wage for these clusters, all available within Vista and the commute area. It shows that there are ample opportunities for transitioners which are within reasonable commute that offer good wages and an opportunity for career growth. So you'll see next to each industry the number of jobs that are available within the commute area, quite a number of jobs there. And the average salaries are, one is just above $70,000 and then everything else is 90 or above. Moving forward, this is a map where the opportunities we identified in our study are laid out. The shaded area is the commute area, generally, and you can see the white section there in the middle is Vista, which is good that there are employers that are available right here in our town. There's a concentration across North County and near the southern edge of the commute area. The different colors represent different industries that we discussed in the previous slide. When we look at where employment and job search support organizations are throughout the region, you can see these clustered on this map. This is because our transitioners need assistance with resume writing, interviewing skills, job skills, and support such as childcare, transportation, tools, and work clothing. And here's where these services and organizations are located, and we can see that there's a good concentration along the 78. You also see a high density of those assets toward the southern edge of the commute area and down in San Diego proper. Now let's look at those maps together, and we'll see our education and training assets throughout the region. Oops, I'm sorry. This is actually the overlay slide. Okay, sorry. As we overlay employment opportunities and job search support, we can see that there are necessary assets to provide the assistance to get connected to these identified opportunities. So essentially the job opportunities and the job supports are clustered together. That's a good thing. And it's great news. So for some transitioners, they may already have relevant experience, education, or training. We can easily and quickly connect those transitioners to these services and these jobs. Other transitioners may need more than just these basic supports and referrals and can also access these assets to help with the cost of transportation, childcare, or in many cases, training or education. So next, we're going to look at the education and training assets throughout the region. The white circles are educational training programs and institutions, and the black dots represent apprenticeship programs in the region that align with our industry clusters. As you can see, we have some programs within the commute area, but the highest density of training and apprenticeship programs are outside of our commute area. They're much too far for our Vista residents, which makes it difficult for Vista residents and for our transitioners to access. As we again layer the job opportunities there exists somewhat of a gap within Vista and the commute area for education and training compared to the employment opportunities. We can see that our challenge is not creating employment opportunities, but rather accumulating more education and training programs for our transitioners and residents to obtain the skills they need to gain those jobs. So in summary, we know that transitioners have opportunities for better jobs in or near Vista in the commute area. The top 5 occupations alone have over 1,000 open positions within the commute area. And the top 5 industries are combined for almost 7,000 jobs open in the commute area. That's a lot of jobs for our transitioning residents. The mapping also showed employment support services and job search assistance were generally located near each other. And this is great for immediate connections, like I mentioned, that have relevant experience or education. Educational assets, including apprenticeship programs, are not as dense as the employment support services within the commute area. And those with higher educational attainment can make quick connections to those employment opportunities. So now for a few recommendations. First of all, we recommend streamlining the connection for transitioners to these opportunities, both to the employment support assets, the jobs within the commute area, and the educational assets. However, educational assets will be challenging given the distance in relation to Vista. We recommend partnership development with educational assets, maybe bringing those assets closer to Vista, or transition supports for residents to access those assets that align with their chosen skill or pathway. We also recommend building capacity to focus on the continual growth and expansion of the education and employment services, as well as connection to the business industry for Vista residents. And lastly, and most importantly, we want to work with city staff and other partners to identify specific and strategic programs for implementation and funding. So with that, I do want to highlight a program that we implemented last summer. Thanks to the council's allocation of a grant of $235,000, we were able to implement the Velocity Internship Program. I want to give a shout out to Meg Garlejo, our Workforce Development Coordinator, who's in the audience and helped oversee that program. Last summer, we were able to place 42 high school seniors, rising high school seniors, in internships, paid internship opportunities with 22 businesses in Vista. We essentially hired the students as Vista Chamber employees and matched them with businesses in their career interest at no cost to the business. The students had a 100-hour internship. They gained career exploration and understanding around an industry, and the business added additional capacity during a time where it was difficult to potentially find workers. I'm happy to report that at the end of the program last summer, of the 42 students, 12 students were offered a permanent job with the company that they interned with, and we had a number of other students that will continue a mentorship or shadowing experience with their internship site. We're really excited that we were able to stretch the funds that you granted us last year, and we'll be able to offer the program again in the summer of 2023. And we'll be opening up the application process just after the new year for both the businesses in Vista as well as Vista students who are going into their senior year of high school. So that program is just one example of the types of connections that we can make in partnership with the city and with the city staff. This is just a very brief overview of a very detailed study that we could talk about for a really long time. So I appreciate your time this evening, and I really want to thank the council again for funding this opportunity to study these transitioning populations. With that, I don't know if it's appropriate for questions, but if you have any, I'll be happy to take them. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Green has a question.
I don't actually have a question. I just wanted to thank you so much for doing this study and providing this information. I think it's great to see. Also great to see on a map and see what our needs are. From a recommendation standpoint, I look forward to having you work with city staff on another partnership. That Velocity internship was amazing, and knowing that 12 of those kids in high school in our school district actually got offered jobs is huge. As a graduate of Vista Unified School District, I can tell you our chamber didn't do a lot to get us jobs when we were in school several decades ago. So it's really cool that we actually have programs like this. So thank you for all your work, and thanks for your leadership over there at the chamber. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Contreras.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I think it's really helpful for us as a council and for the public at large to be able to kind of have an idea of where we are economically and where we can continue to grow. And I do want to say that I found it really important to take a look at how you mapped out where people are at in our community, where they physically have to go, right? And some of the transportation issues that could be a part of that, where, at North County Transit District as the representative for the city of Vista, I want to continue to see what we can do, maybe in micro transit or whatever the case might be to connect folks, but also to see where folks can go to attain knowledge so that they can be ready for a transition to a different industry that maybe that industry is transitioning itself, right? So we see that a lot. But it made me just kind of a little flag went up in my head, a good one. And what I really see is a connection to our VEDS document, our Vista Economic Development Strategy Plan, which is a 5-year plan, where we have listed sector education and knowledge creation as we have identified that as a regional cluster without really it having such a big place here within our city boundaries. So I definitely see a connection between the information that you're providing us and something that we have identified as a city where we want to grow. And so I think there's a nexus between education and knowledge creation as an opportunity for higher level employment for our residents here, and also to reduce the amount of time and the obstacles of transportation, having to go to somewhere else to get that additional skill set, additional credentialing, or whatever the case might be. So I just wanted to highlight that as something that I saw that I think having reports like this from a partner like the Chamber that we're all really working for the same community well-being and economic opportunity, I think it's great. And I would love to see in the future how we can merge our VEDS document and some of the information that's coming out of this report. I think that's just a natural place to go from where we're at now, because we want to make sure that both documents are always working towards bettering our community and increasing those opportunities. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I wanted to flag that as something that I thought of as a connection right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I was just curious if any of the businesses that received an intern, did we invite them? Do you think there would be an interest in them participating financially to make the internships available in the future, even if we've run out of this one-time funding?
That's a great question. That's something that we're evaluating. We are looking for additional funding to keep the program going longer. Obviously, it was funded by ARPA money, one-time funds, and is a great takeaway from the program is just how amazing the students were, and the businesses were incredible. We did a survey with the businesses afterward, and overwhelmingly they were impressed and thrilled with the students and the work that they provided. So now that we have essentially a proven concept of how great these kiddos are, connected to the work that they can do, I believe that there is some capability for the businesses to invest in the program, perhaps. So we're looking for potential grant opportunities opportunities where maybe there's a cost-sharing situation, or maybe there's a period of time where the salary is covered by a grant, and then it's kind of like a try before you buy situation. So we're looking at a number of opportunities, and I welcome any input from the council or from city staff if they come across any opportunities that look like a good fit. It would probably take a partnership either with a city or with a school district to obtain the amount of funds that we need in order to keep the program going. But I can really think, when you think about the chamber and our ultimate goals of connecting people who live in Vista and grow up in Vista to jobs in Vista, and then they become the entrepreneurs who are the business owners hiring the next wave of folks. I mean, that's a full circle moment, and we really did not anticipate the level of success from the internship. So I think it's fair to ask businesses to chip in to some degree once we've really proven that concept and they know the value is there.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Great program. Good presentation tonight. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That takes us to our consent calendar, and the following recommendations on the consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public can remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the clerk secretary. Items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following the adoption of the calendar. So we have 9 consent items this evening, and I see Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I'd like to discuss item C8, but I would make a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda.
Okay, and then Councilmember Contreras?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we'll vote on that, and then we'll take item C8. So please cast your votes on the balance of the consent calendar. That motion passes unanimously. And then we will go to C8, which is the School Resource Officers, Vista Unified School District Agreement, and we'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just want to say, particularly for all the students who are here tonight, for the past 3 years, we have not had school resource officers in our high schools. We are very excited after repeated requests from students, from teachers, and from teachers, parents, and students to restore the school resource officers. We are very excited to be restoring them in partnership with the school district. So hopefully this will be a long-term restoration. We look forward to that, and we look forward to the school resource officers serving the students in our community, in our schools. Thank you.
Councilmember Contreras, did you want to say something, or is that from before? No, this is a new thing. Okay, well, so did we vote? Did we vote on this? Was this included in our vote?
No.
It wasn't, so we need a motion on this then.
And I would offer the motion to approve item C8.
Okay. Councilmember Contreras, did you want to second it?
Yes, I will second, but I also have some comments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know, do we have any speakers? Are we good?
No speakers.
So I just want to say that, this is something that we're continuing that was momentarily paused. The amount of money that we're putting towards safety in our community is absolutely crucial. And I would just like to say that my hope is that as a city, we invest beyond the category in front of us, because I think we provide $25,000 to the school district for safe crossing, which in my district, that's crucial. $25,000 compared to, the cost that we're going to be in the several hundred thousands at this point. I want to make sure that in the future, we're looking at all the opportunities that we have as a city to really leverage our resources with what the school district has, so we can continue to discuss public safety in a really comprehensive manner. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I do second the motion, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, then I would call for the vote, seeing no other speakers. That motion passes unanimously. That takes into our discussion items. We have actually 2 discussion items this evening. The first one is the zoning for mobile showers. Community Development and Engineering Director John Conley is going to provide the staff report. So, John, it's to you.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. One moment. Sorry about that. So this item was discussed at the council on August 9th, and the council direction was to evaluate zoning designations that would be appropriate for the establishment of mobile shower facilities, either by right or with a discretionary permit. So staff researched other jurisdictions within the region and within the state to determine what best practices are for mobile shower facilities. What we determined is that most of these facilities are operated as part of a nonprofit entity, such as a social service provider or a church facility that provides other homeless services, or as part of a public program that's funded by a city or county. We did not identify any jurisdictions that had by right zoning for these types of facilities. So where are they currently allowed in Vista? Mobile showers are currently allowed without any additional planning approval if they're part of a religious institution or a nonprofit entity that provides similar social services if they're operating under an approved use permit. There are a number of church facilities in town that could do this under their existing use permit, as well as social service providers. They also can be permitted for temporary events with a temporary use permit if they're located on private property, or with a special event permit if they're located on public property. And a temporary event is typically a one-day event or a weekend event that we permit for a special occasion. Any of those are permitted either through the ministerial over-the-counter use permit or under an approved use permit at a prior approved location. If the City Council wishes to establish a new use for mobile showers within the zoning code, we offer the following options. The staff recommends establishing them in the commercial zones. That's primarily the C1, C2, C3, or M1 zones within the city. These are primarily located along our major arterials. Staff also recommends allowing these with a discretionary permit, which is considered a minor or special use permit. And to give you a little information about what those processes are, a minor use permit is a discretionary permit that's reviewed by planning. It typically includes conditions of approval that we can apply to the use itself, the location, the characteristics, parameters in which it operates. These permits are reviewed by the zoning administrator. They are appealable to the planning commission and then further appealable to the city council. The fee for a minor use permit is approximately $3,400 to apply for the application. A special use permit is the next option. That's a more thorough review. Similar process, submitted to planning, reviewed and applied conditions. It's typically reviewed by the Planning Commission and is appealable to the City Council. The cost for this permit is about $8,900 for the application fee. Because a mobile shower use is not tied to a new development, typically it's simply a use review. Our full staff doesn't have to review this type of application, at least in concept. And so staff believes that the cost to review one of these applications, if it were to apply under a use permit, would be about $1,000 in staff time. Another option, if the council desires, would be to allow mobile showers by right, which would be a ministerial approval, and we'd simply look at location and have specified conditions in the zoning code that would apply across the board to these uses. However, the staff doesn't recommend this because of the possibility of unforeseen circumstances related to the use that we wouldn't necessarily be able to capture with standard conditions for all of them. So the staff recommendation, if we want to add them to our zoning code, is to allow mobile showers within the commercial zones, C1, 2, 3, and the M1 zone, with a minor use permit if they're not part of a prior approved use, as I mentioned, like a church or a social service facility. The City Council may establish a different fee considering the parameters for staff review, since the minor use permit fee is currently about $3,400. And so with that, staff is requesting formal direction from the council this evening to develop the appropriate zoning amendment and bring it back to the Planning Commission and the City Council for approval. And with that, I'm available for any questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I have one speaker. Do you want to have a speaker first? Okay, the speaker is Holly Herring. Is Holly here?
Hello, I am Holly Herring. And I used to announce what district I lived in when I came here, and it was District 3, but I'm currently homeless. In the city of Carlsbad on Tuesdays, there's showers available. In Oceanside, 5 days a week, there are showers available, and in Escondido, 5 days a week, showers are available, and they are provided by trailers or other social service organizations. Showers are very foundational. They provide dignity, and the health benefits are incredible. Having that bacteria on your skin, getting a scratch or a scrape, you know the first thing you do is wash out the bacteria that has now gone in through the skin break. What we see now is people who don't have access to showers getting cellulitis and losing limbs, which is very expensive to health and to our tax dollars. Now, the zoning there, you're talking about nonprofits who provide this service in cities, and they aren't charging. They also don't bring in a lot of money. A $3,400 permit for an organization that you're not even paying to provide that valuable service is outrageous. I don't know who can afford that. I ask that you reconsider that there's an organization willing to come to your city, provide health, hygiene, dignity to your citizens like myself who are homeless. You're not paying them. Please don't charge them fees to provide that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's our only speaker, so I'll go to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the opportunity to go to what used to be the Bread of Life facility in Oceanside. It's been acquired by the San Diego Rescue Mission, and the San Diego Rescue Mission does provide showers there at that site in Oceanside. And I went on the days that they were providing the showers. And to be honest with you, I was incredibly moved and impressed, most by the fact that they had recruited more homeless persons into the San Diego Rescue Mission's shelter program to go downtown San Diego and participate in a year of recovery from homelessness in their shelter. They had 62 in a 2-year time space, which at the time I believe was more than all of our social work apparatus that we've authorized as a council had achieved. So the result was very clearly beneficial for the community. We are, dealing with a situation where, and in Oceanside, the rescue mission did not apply for an SUP. They weren't required to. They're a religious organization. So we have the ability for all of our faith-based organizations and other organizations to do this without an SUP. I'm okay with creating the SUP, and I'm okay with doing it at a, we can waive the, if we can, under public law, let's ask our city attorney, because this is a charitable purpose, are we allowed to waive the fee?
Yes, you have the ability to waive the fee.
Well, I do think it's important that we have an SUP or MUP process for those organizations that don't already qualify to do it without coming to us at all, which is a very broad range of organizations. So I would suggest that we adopt staff's recommendation and with the elimination of the fee, but that we have the right to issue is it an MUP? An MUP, yes. Which is a ministerial approval by staff without coming before the council, because we do want to have a relationship with those that are offering this service if they don't already have the right to do it by right. So that would be my recommendation.
Councilmember Contreras.
And so that's a motion that you have on, Deputy Mayor, is that correct? I'll make that motion. Sure, okay. So I'll second it. And what I want to say is the reason that I brought this forward was because I was hearing from residents, hey, I know of a mobile shower that was at this church, and, they were told, you better pack up and go because your special use permit isn't allowing for this use, and we might consider taking it away. And because this was flagged, we actually discovered in trying to get a staff report out that we were not following our code because there was an exemption, a RUPLA exemption for a religious organization. So I want to say that that's an immediate outcome of having this type of discussion with the council. I think it's really important for anybody in the public, if you feel like maybe something can be changed, you run into a situation with our code. That's what we're here for, and I think it's really important that we have that open communication with the public. So I'm really happy that was discovered early on, and now we know, okay, a religious institution, you can go ahead and do that. But I do think that because there's so many other organizations that may fit outside of a nonprofit or a religious institution that could be providing these services, whether it's a one-time basis or multiple times a year, or whatever the case might be. I do agree that we need a minor use permit at minimum, so that way there can always be a little bit of discretion from the part of the city. And I also agree that, this is for anybody who comes to our city that's going to provide such an important hygienic service, one of, the pillars of humanity, that's crucial for someone to be able just to maneuver through life, knowing that they can have a shower somewhere, is critical. I do also agree that we might as well not cause an obstacle where there need not be one. So I agree with removing the cost for this type of service. I think it's an incredible service, and I would like to see Vista, be on this list of cities where, hey, you can have a nice, quick, clean shower. So anyways, I do second the motion, and I'd love to continue hearing from my colleagues.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. I don't have too much more to add. I'm in support of this item, and I'm glad to see that we have majority support as well. I would also agree that there needs to be some kind of permitting process to allow for proper record keeping and management of the service, but without the burden of a fee, because it is such a valuable service. And since we've learned from COVID, hygiene is so important to our public health. And having a nice, refreshing shower can set you up for success, whether you're going to your job, you're going to your recovery program, whatever that looks like for you. I want people to be able to access that more frequently and not have any red tape. So thank you for bringing this forward, and I'm glad it has support.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
I forgot to mention that I attended the ribbon cutting recently of the Methodist Church on Melrose, their new facility, and they've actually built showers into the new facility. It's not a mobile facility, but they've actually built showers into that facility for their ministry for the homeless. So there are showers available there now at the different times that they're offering that, and I'm not sure what the hours are, probably on their website. But I guess the only thing I wanted to add in addition to that is it's a really valuable opportunity to reach people, just like the safe parking opportunity. And I just want to make sure that, and one of the things I think is valuable about the city interfacing is that we're using it as an opportunity for outreach and to get people into shelter. And I think because it has demonstrated that it has the ability to get people to accept shelter, to me, that's why it's important.
Councilmember Contreras.
I completely agree with you, Deputy Mayor. And I will say, as your representative on North County Transit District, we recently had a discussion because we know that there's a lot of folks where there is a gap in their ability to reach a place to take a shower. And so what's happening is our public facilities are being utilized for that purpose. So, I just want to make sure when we're trying to connect with individuals, we have our Vista Transit Center right here. I want to make sure that we have a good relationship with North County Transit District and that our outreach here in the city works in tandem with what North County Transit District is doing as well, because we want to be able to get folks to the services that they need. So that way we can all have a sense of security and safety when, you're trying to just move through your day and you don't have access to your own place that has a shower, that we're, providing that connection for folks. I think it's critical. So I'm just extremely happy that we're moving forward in this direction. And I wanted to ask, because another component of hygiene is, being able to wash your clothing. And, if there is a service, a mobile, laundromat service, are we allowed, do we have anywhere in our code to allow for that as well? Or is that a separate discussion that we need to have?
That would be a similar use to a mobile shower. It could be provided in an existing religious institution or social service provider that provides homeless services under their existing use permit. But if you wanted to do it, or under a temporary use permit, same provisions as I mentioned, but if you wanted to do it as a standalone use, we'd have to have direction from the council to add it to our code.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if we want to have well, let me ask the attorney. If I asked for a possible amended motion that would have a symmetrical process for mobile laundry services, is that permissible, or would I have to bring that back to different, because it hasn't been agendized per se?
It's permissible, and I was actually put my name on the speaker list because we don't need a motion, even though a motion and a second's made. We're here to get to discuss it because we will need to make code amendments via an ordinance and bring it back.
And then that's when we're going to vote, is on the actual ordinance. Well,
So we can put in the laundry part as part of that, as part and
Great.
parcel of the shower services.
great. I, for one, think that it would be great to have an opportunity to have, both of those services if there's someone out there that wants to do that, and for it to be a symmetrical process as the mobile shower, because it seems like they kind of fit together. So that's my direction. And there's a few more people on this council, so hopefully there's some more words to be said on this subject. Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councilwoman Contreras' direction.
Oh, Deputy Mayor.
I would agree to add the mobile laundry facilities as well.
Okay, I see no other speaker. You want a motion on this, right? No, you don't want a motion on this. Okay. Okay, so you have enough information, direction, okay. Okay, then that takes us to our second discussion item. Actually, it's an update, transportation update. City Engineer Greg Mayer is going to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have our talented traffic engineer, Sam, here to present for you tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sam Hassanen, City Traffic Engineer. So just a quick background on this item, on the transportation update. So since 2016, one of the City Council's main goals has been to improve traffic flow, reduce traffic congestion, and continue to improve roads and sidewalks. And accordingly, the staff developed a traffic congestion management plan, which was completed to serve as a guide for the city's short-term and long-term transportation system improvements. We have also given a couple of updates to the City Council in the last few years on the transportation system improvements, and the most recent was about a year ago. So as part of the traffic congestion management plan, we evaluated all of the major signalized intersections in the city, and that allowed us to do three main things. The first is to develop short and long-term solutions to the traffic congestion issues in the city. and also to find opportunities. I'm sorry, I should have said that the first thing was to fully understand the existing traffic conditions and levels of service. So we really had a good picture of kind of the base conditions. That was back in 2018 that we collected the data and did the evaluations. And we had the morning and evening traffic peaks that we focused on. So we had a really good idea of what our arterial and major streets were carrying. And based on that, we developed short and long-term solutions. And basically, the short-term solutions consisted of finding opportunities to add lanes with striping only or minor physical widening to be able to stripe intersections to add additional capacity. And at this point, all of the low-cost improvements that have been identified have been completed. There's only one project that is currently still in progress, which is additional lanes at South Melrose Drive and Sunset Drive intersection. And also, in addition, and this was done using mostly grant funding, we upgraded the city's traffic signal communications, which is mostly currently using fiber optic. And we also added about 50 CCTV cameras at signalized intersections. And what that allows us to do is to be able to monitor the traffic in real time, as well as be able to respond to requests and incidents by being able to change the signal timing remotely. And this is a very efficient method of operations. Since it eliminates the need for field trips in many cases. And at the last City Council update, that was about a year ago, and now that the the low-cost projects have been completed, there was a consensus not to place a high priority on the implementation of high-cost projects to widen long segments of arterials and major roads. And in addition, the current City Council goal added the term to focus on all forms of travel, not just vehicular traffic. So accordingly, the focus has shifted basically now to take advantage of existing street space to improve traffic safety for all road users, as well as building sidewalks in high-use locations. So some of the most recently completed and ongoing projects for sidewalks, the 3 locations were completed: sidewalks on Laude de Loma, West California Avenue, and Gannett Drive, as well as Maryland Drive. And then some upcoming projects for sidewalks include Highland Drive, and Nevada Avenue, and Lemon Avenue. Well, other ongoing projects, these actually are currently in the design stage. Traffic signal on Beaubier Drive and Kaya Jules. We also have the Townside Complete Street Project, which was funded by a grant through the Active Transportation Program. And this is a good example of using the existing street space to kind of reallocate it to be able to accommodate all road users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, transit, and so on. There's also the Inland Rail Trail, which is a regional project that is being managed and constructed by Sandag, and it is currently funded through for the whole segment through the City of Vista. Emerald Drive Complete Street, this is another complete street project to kind of take the existing space on Emerald Drive and reuse it, and this also addresses many traffic safety issues on Emerald Drive. And we submitted a grant application to the Active Transportation Program, and unfortunately, we found out last week that it was not selected for funding. However, there's a component of the Active Transportation Program that is kind of kicked down to Sandag, so it'll compete again, so still has an opportunity, and we'll be able to find out in May 2023 if this project will be selected by Sandag for funding. Also, a comprehensive traffic safety action plan, and this is a brand new funding program through the federal infrastructure funding bill. And it's a 5-year program, $1 billion each year. So we submitted the application to put together this plan, which will look at all the city streets and look at the traffic safety and come up with a list of recommendations or recommended projects, sort of like there will be prepackaged projects to be able to pull those out and apply for the upcoming cycles of this grant program to be able to implement the projects. And this plan, if funded, will have extensive community engagements. Well, we have like maybe 3-4 public workshops and go around the city and kind of hear from the residents and the businesses about the traffic safety issues and hear suggested solutions and so on. We also, another part of what we do, which kind of drives a lot of what we do really, is public requests. For example, in 2021, we received 502 traffic requests. That's from just the city's residents and commuters and so on. And 274 of those requests resulted in work orders. And those are work orders that we put together to make changes to the street system out there, and they range from a simple red curb all the way up to restriping of an intersection or a street segment. Traffic signal timing refinements, that's a continual task that we take on, and that's just to keep up with our synchronized traffic signal timing plans that we have on our arterial and major roads for the morning, midday, and PM peak traffic. And also, one of the things that the traffic engineering division is involved in is regional planning, and it's mostly working with SANDAG. And some of the things that are going on is the Regional Mobility Working Group, which is a standing committee that meets on a monthly basis to discuss mobility and transportation and land use issues in the region. One of the projects that is actually now a partnership between Caltrans and SANDAG is the SR 78 Corridor Multimodal Comprehensive Plan, and this has been so far a 1.5-year effort, and it's about to wrap up in a few months and to produce a final report. And this plan is looking at the entire North County region and looking at transportation improvements for the next 30 years, basically. So it's coming up with some big solutions, for arterials, for transit, for microtransit, for all kind of the modes of transportation. Another ongoing effort that we're involved in is the Regional Digital Equity Working Group, and this is a group that's formed by SANDAG that is looking at high-speed internet for basically the whole region. And there's a lot of efforts going on the federal, state, and local level. There's also ad hoc committees that SANDAG forms based on ongoing issues that we participate in. And finally, the regional plan update, which SANDAG takes on, which the most recent just kind of wrapped up. I think the final plan is going through the approval processes right now. And that concludes my presentation.
I don't have any speakers, so Councilmember Melendez.
There we go. Thank you. And thank you, Sam, for that presentation. I really wanted to ask about the Emerald Drive project. So disappointing to hear that we didn't get that funding. Could you describe a little more the source of the initial funding that we were denied?
So the program as a whole is called the Active Transportation Program, and it's a part of several sources of money, including federal and state. And the way that the program works is that a chunk of it is kind of distributed on a statewide basis, and then another chunk is kind of kicked down to the metropolitan planning organizations, in our case, SANDAG. So the same projects that were applied for that were not funded at the statewide level automatically go to the regional agencies to compete again, basically. So we still have that opportunity, and we're hopeful, obviously. And then I was thinking kind of longer term, if that doesn't work, the safety action plan that I mentioned, which is through the new funding program, which is called Safe Streets and Roads for All. We would most likely have that project recommended in our comprehensive safety plan and possibly go after infrastructure funding in the upcoming cycles of that program.
Okay. Well, that's definitely right. Looking forward to wanting to be hopeful, but trying to plan ahead and anticipating what if we don't get the funding. This project is still really important to the folks along the Emerald Corridor. Huge safety issues there, especially with 3 schools in the vicinity. And I just want to make sure that we are planning ahead to see how we could get funding, even if we're not granted or awarded funding through the secondary SANDAG process. But I also want to know, what can we do to make our project more competitive for funding?
So we thought we had improved it this time because this is our second round in the ATP. And it really is a good project from a traffic safety standpoint, from a community engagement. We've had like 4 workshops. We had 3 initially a few years ago when we put the plan together. And then I had, arranged another one before we submitted this most recent ATP grant application to make sure that, that's an important component that they look at. Some of the other projects is they definitely look at what they call disadvantaged communities, which is a specific definition based on census tract, income and poverty and so on. This is where it kind of falls short, and unfortunately or fortunately, there's not much we can do about that, obviously. But we're still hopeful at the Sandag level, and like I mentioned, if not, hopefully for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program.
Okay. I appreciate you comparing a little bit more about the other projects, right, that may have been granted that funding. I think it'd be really worthwhile to look at what they were able to do in order to be successful. Of course, there may be parts of that rubric that we're not going to hit because there might be population differences and just differences that we can't control. But in terms of the community engagement aspect, in preparation for the second round of funding that we're trying to obtain through Sandag, what is community engagement going to look like or plan to look like leading up to, I think you mentioned, May 2023?
Yeah, so that process is already in evaluation. So once the grant application is submitted through the statewide portion of the grant of the application process, then it just automatically goes to Sandag, the same exact package. So there's nothing that is added at this point.
Okay.
So possibly at the Sandag level, maybe communication with the Sandag as far as maybe promoting the project.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And I just want to reflect to my colleagues here on council that I know that there's different areas that we each have in our districts or throughout the city that are important to us and that we recognize are really pivotal points of connection for the residents that live there. And I'll definitely be following this particular project and advocating that we receive funding for it, that we allocate funding for it. And if we fail at being able to receive external funds, how are we able to modify or adapt the program, adapt the design so that some changes for the safety of our community can be made with available city funding, right? So I'm going to follow it all the way to the end and definitely be advocating that there are changes and improvements made along the Emerald Corridor because I believe this is an amazing project, right? I want us to have this, but it's really competitive. And if we're not able to accomplish the project the way that it's been envisioned at this point, I still think that there need to be some improvements to that area. So thank you so much for that update, and I think great job, great work. I know that's been a difficult process, and I'll continue to advocate with you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sam, thanks for your presentation. A lot of constituents ask me about timing of signals. You talked earlier about the CCTV system that we've been able to install, and I wondered if you could give a little information for residents of Vista to understand what we've done to try and improve wait times and make the throughput of our arterial roadways work better.
Yeah, the signal time is one of the major functions that we take on, and it is a continual process. Traffic patterns pretty steady, but they do change over time. Signals malfunction for whatever reasons. It's kind of an ongoing process to make sure we maintain our coordination plans. And we have a really good kind of solid base coordination plans. And I think I mentioned we have them for the morning, midday, and PM peak periods. And we make sure that those are constantly working to progress the flow. And generally they're directional. Morning is certain direction, evening is the other direction. And for example, I had a complaint last week about South Melrose Drive, the entire length. So I had it actually the last couple of days on the CCTV cameras where I had it tiled for the different cameras on South Melrose just to kind of watch the traffic in the morning and evening, which I found it to be flowing actually. But sometimes the perspective of drivers, of course, is a little bit different, especially in the peak and especially the evening peak too, which is just tends to be heavy. And sometimes regardless of signal time, and it's just the capacity is there, kind of reached, and you get to a point where there's congestion, but it is something that is, and the new CCTV system really has been very efficient because it allows me to be doing other things while also watching the traffic. So it's definitely been helpful and efficient.
Good, thank you.
Councilmember Contreras.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I kind of have a few things to go over. First, I just wanted to clarify, so the Emerald Corridor that plan is going to Sandag, is that strictly under like ATP funding?
Correct. So the same program has two components, the statewide and the regional planning agencies. That's just the way that the legislation was kind of enacted on that.
Well, I think that there are so many reasons to be active on Sandag, and one of the big reasons is that there is a dismal amount of funding that is currently allocated to active transportation programming, which is cycling, walking, and public transit. But being able to have a corridor that's safe, Emerald is just part of that like wild, wild west driving over there. And I know we see it in a lot of our other streets, but I think it's a great opportunity for the public to tell Sandag, hey, you need to be funding at more than 3 or 4% active transportation programming in the cities. But I'm glad that we're continuing to seek funding for it. I think even if we don't get it, we should figure out a way to implement some of the safety strategies that are highest priority for that corridor. And I really liked in the presentation showing what the previous goal was in 2016. And that recently we have changed our focus when it comes to transportation and utilizing all forms of travel, because we want to ensure that we're working to make this community more connected and not more divided by ever expanding roads, which we only know we know. I mean, it's fact that it's called induced demand. So if you add another lane, even if it's through restriping, it's going to increase the congestion. It's going to increase the frustration. And at the end of the day, we don't want to seem, more appealing to cut through traffic than we are for our own residents that are just trying to go down the street to the market or, go grab a beer or whatever the case might be. So with that, I had brought up NEVs and LSVs, which is the neighborhood electric vehicles or low-speed vehicles. And those are permissible at the state of California for all roads posted 35 miles per hour or less. There are so many opportunities for the city, I believe, to really take a look at our roads, have an inventory of it, and maybe have some mapped plans with how we can attract public-private partnerships for first and last mile travel, which would be microtransit. I was at Sandag's in a different capacity at Sandag's first ever community fair, and one of the project presenters for Innovative Concepts was this company called Beep, and they can work within an 8-mile radius of their charging station. And they are an autonomous electric vehicle that would fit within this NEV LSV category. So they would need to have roads at 35 miles per hour or less to be able to operate. So I want, just to make it clear to the public that that's something that we all have to take into consideration if we really want to have freedom of choice with our mobility. Because if we continue to allocate our public space to more lanes, to higher vehicle speeds, and we are actually going to lose the opportunity in the future to build out more connectivity using microtransit. It's on the cutting edge. It's been on the cutting edge for a long time, and we still don't see it adopted. But, privately, people can purchase some of these vehicles, and they may, we might see a proliferation of what looks like golf carts in our city. But in any case, maybe that's something even the city would be looking to when it comes to shuttles, to get people to the moonlight, or whatever the case might be for an expansion of our out and about program for our seniors. I think that taking the inventory of our streets, seeing if we can map out some cool routes that are going to fit this 35 miles per hour or less, that connect different important services, maybe like Vista Community Clinic, the grocery stores. We lost Vaughn's. How are we going to help people get to the nearest grocery store when there's a food desert? There's so many opportunities to kind of start mapping out the future that's just around the corner. And then I wanted to say, from a North County Transit District standpoint, as the representative for this city, we've been discussing as a board in North County Transit District how to make our buses faster. One, we have a huge bus operator shortage, so it would help if we could increase the frequency, because the 303 bus, which is my favorite bus, it's the one I'm on all the time, that's one of the most ridden buses in like all of San Diego County. And our frequencies are down. And with youth opportunity passes, it's great because we're seeing 3 times the ridership, from our youth. However, it means that we need more frequencies, or we need to be able to get this bus to move faster. It goes all the way from Vista Transit Center to the San Luis Rey Transit Center to Oceanside Transit Center. That's a long route, and there's so many points of congestion. So North County Transit District is going to be looking at transit-only lanes, traffic signal priority, and a menu of different options, and they're going to present this to the cities. But I think that we have the opportunity as a city to start categorizing that ourselves. I don't think we have to wait for someone else. I think we can internally start looking at, hey, what are some possible ways to reduce the travel time for our public transit, because we have a lot of people that use it, and a lot of people that, according to a study that North County Transit District just did with Deloitte, there is a huge appetite for people to increase their ridership, but they're just not able to get from one place to another fast enough. And there's some other issues like having a nice place to sit and shade and stuff like that, and that's something that we can do in collaboration with them as well as a city. I wanted to ask about protected bike lanes in particular, as part of our transportation and all forms of transportation. How old is our bike master plan? Because we have one, I believe, and I think it might be from the 2012 era.
I believe it's more current than that, maybe 5 years old, I want to say.
Okay, and do we know when that's up for review? Because
I'll find that out.
yeah, that would be great if we could get that on the docket within, the next 6 months. 5 years, there's a lot that has changed. And so being able to figure out also for the future e-bikes and the proliferation that we know is going to continue to happen, we want to ensure that we have, we can identify safety strategies in our roadway.
And it could be older than that, I'm sorry. I just kind of...
Yeah, no, I can't remember. I know
Yeah.
it's old because I have been, I'm almost done with my first term and I haven't seen it. So it hasn't been part of a presentation. So I think it might be time to dust it off and bring it to the light, and we can have, maybe even a workshop and have more public participation. As far as the inland rail trail, I know that that's going to be crucial for us to expand our mobility options here, and that we have funding, but what's the timeline? What's going on? Is it going to be another 20 years?
Hopefully not, but it's currently there's the segment out to Civic Center Drive, and I thought that was going to go to construction soon. I don't know if we haven't heard from Sandeg recently. At least I haven't. And the next segment, all the way out to the city boundary, should be in design. always takes longer, especially with the bigger agencies like Sandag, but it should be reality, within the next few years.
I think it would be great to bring that as a presentation in the future. As soon as we have more information, in that it continues to come before the council and the public for continuous review. So again, this is another spot where we can just be like, Sandag, come on, let's get this done. Because I know that's supposed to go to Oceanside, and who knows when that portion's going to be, designed. But that we have the money now for our section, that's great. I wanted to add that we should also look at opportunities to shorten pedestrian crossings that are in conjunction with safe routes to school and also in high-use areas. And by high use, I mean the pedestrians are using them a lot. Because I know there's a lot of different intersections that are residential intersections that people don't feel safe crossing. So any opportunity that if we can make that part of do we have a pedestrian master plan? Because I feel like this could be part of a pedestrian master plan.
Not currently.
Okay, so I think that there's so much to do under making it safer for our pedestrians that at least, I don't know if the rest of my council agrees to this. I would assume they would. It's a public safety thing. But that we look at a pedestrian master plan that includes opportunities to shorten pedestrian crossings, especially in conjunction with safe routes to school and where there's high use. And also that which if we're not doing, I think it would be good for us to inventory and test our crosswalk signals. There's a lot of issues where I've just had I love talking to people, but sometimes having a 10-minute break when you're trying to get somewhere real quick and you think you can just, walk for 7 minutes and get there, but you're stuck at a light for 5 minutes, it increases your time as a pedestrian. We don't have that much shade, so people want to get from one place to another. I've experienced, really high wait times. So if we're not testing our crosswalk signals on an annual basis or biannual, however we want to do it, I think that we should come up with a strategy to test those, and that can be part of our pedestrian master plan. I promise I'm almost done. I do think that anything like a bike master plan and a pedestrian master plan should potentially, there could be a joint review from our traffic commission and our safety commission, because it kind of has a nexus between that. I don't know if we do joint reviews, joint committee reviews, commission reviews, but I think that would be interesting. The Sprinter corridor. So again, this is a North County Transit District thing. Basically, there's a lot of funding through some of the federal government stuff that's happening. There's less funding for the Sprinter because of the type of train that it is, but there's still funding out there. And what I've heard from NCTD is that we can kind of dream big about it. We don't have to have all the details planned out, but what we want to do is be able to get a plan in before this next year's close for proposals. So I want to make sure that we can work with NCTD. They cannot bring it forward. It actually has to be this jurisdiction that is the lead on the project, but we can work in tandem with them, and we can, I don't know how the scoring works, but something that, is good for corridor improvements that are for pedestrian and maybe cyclist mobility would be good, and also to allow our first responders to kind of utilize our road instead of being held back by the congestion, because the little train things come down, and they're going to be coming down sooner. If it's every 15 minutes, it's great for transit, not so good for our first responders. So I want to see what kind of money we can get to do grade separations or improvements along the Sprinter corridor. I do want to say that there is Vision Zero. I would hope that as a council, we could commit to Vision Zero, which is a pledge kind of thing, a little bit more detailed than that, but committing to zero pedestrian and cyclist deaths. There's a lot of cities here in San Diego County that have committed to Vision Zero. I talked about the 303 bus. My last thing that I want to say is that I know that we kind of cracked open the municipal code to allow for a petition process for stop signs that are unwarranted and whatnot. And I just want to let the public know, I definitely have been hearing for years and years and years that we need to do more to address really high vehicular speeds in residential areas. And even though we have a petition process for our speed hump, it really is discouraging that we have a process, but at the same time, we're telling people, well, the fire department doesn't approve it, so we don't really want to give you the information to how to do this process. So I think that needs to be addressed, and we will have that before us as a discussion item January 10th. So I invite the public to come back for that. And with that, obviously I love transportation. I can nerd out on this stuff for a long time, and I probably already have gone for too long. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Green, was your name on there before and you took it off? And you're done? Yeah. Okay, then I don't see anything else. Or you don't need a vote on this, right? It's information?
Correct.
Okay, so I see no speakers and nobody wants to talk anymore, so yay. Okay, so moving on. So we're going on to oral communications. That's our next thing. And we don't have any oral communications tonight, no speakers. So with that, I'll just give my little speech here. The city's hosting a trick-or-treat event on this Thursday, actually, day after tomorrow, October 27th at the Civic Center from 4 to 6. There'll be kids' tricks and goodies, and our firefighters and sheriff deputies will be there. The event is free and open to the public, and I was there last year with my grandkids, and it was really nice and fun. Had lots of kids in their costumes. This Saturday, October 29th, residents can safely dispose of their unused prescription drugs at the National Take Back event at the Vista Courthouse from 10 to 2. Details are on the city's website calendar at cityofvista.com. That's for your prescription drugs. And let's see, Amanda's going to do this. It says Amanda. So here, Amanda, there's your. Do you have? Oh, you have it. Okay. So I was going to, as the mayor said. We'll go down this way first. How about that? Deputy Mayor.
Nothing else tonight. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember Green.
That's okay. I was just waiting, proper procedure. Thank everybody for coming tonight. I also just wanted to report back. I do serve on the RISWA board. I'm the trash guy, the Regional Solid Waste Association. So good news, guys. Locked in those trash rates for the next 20 years. Yes, you're very welcome. So there are a couple changes coming, but they were very minimal, and we actually did very good from a Vista standpoint. The max cap on your trash bill has always been 5%. That's staying the same. It initially started where the disposal minimum rate was 1.5%. That was increased to 2%. So every year, no matter what, it will go up a minimum of 2%, maximum of 5%. However, the volume rebate to cities was increased from 1.5% to 2%. And what that means for Vista is that we represent about 36% of the tonnage that is produced between the 7 cities with RISWA. At the end of the year, they give us a volume rebate check. And this year, our volume rebate check was for $104,000 between the 2 checks we received for our tonnage. So that number will go up with the increased rates, but it gives us more money to put back in the community. The other thing is there is a rate freeze now until June 30th, 2024. So your trash rates will not go up until the end of the fiscal year in 2024, which saved you 5% because inflation was high this year, which is great. And let's see, so trash rates are locked in until 6/30/2042, well beyond what I will need to do. And then the last thing is within this contract, SB 1383 is a really big thing for our cities. We need to divert 75% of our organic waste starting January 1st, 2025. CalRecycle is starting to come down on cities. Are you diverting that? EDCO actually has what's called an anaerobic digester, and all of your organic waste currently gets converted into renewable natural gas at the EDCO waste facility. So in addition to keeping the rates the same, giving us a little bit more money, having the rate freeze, they also gave $50,000 to our organization to help in compliance with SB 1383. So that's just one law that came down in 2016, and we're 6 years deep now. Within the next 3 years, they'll start fining people. But from a city standpoint, we are in compliance. Your trash is good and your rates are locked in. So nobody will have to give this update for another 15 to 20 years. So thank you guys for sitting through it. I love trash. Joe Green, go green, eat a taco on a Tuesday night. Thank you.
Councilmember Contreras.
I just want to thank all my coworkers on staff for the excellence that you bring to the city and all the reporting that has to come before us. We had another opportunity to have some really good discussion today. And if you do want to pick up trash, Jovita Serafin and Guerreras en Acción por un Vista Limpio are continuing their walks every Wednesday out of Luz Duran Park at around 8:30. You can connect with her. If you don't know how, you can connect with me, and I'll connect everybody that I can to her. She's an incredible team captain. Outside of that, I just want to say I hope everybody has a really good night, and thank you for staying for the entire conversation. And come back. Don't let this be your first or last time. And when you come back, bring a friend. Thanks.
Councilmember Melendez.
Nothing more from me. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
What is the title? Acting City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor.
Amanda.
Thank you. And just to recap, the bicycle master plan was enacted in 2015. So it's been a little bit, about 7 years. So as the mayor did state, the trick or treat event is this Thursday. We also do have on our website, cityofvista.com, some safety tips for parents to make sure your kids are safe on Halloween evening. Thank you and have a pleasant evening.
Our city attorney, Walter Chung. How about our city clerk down there? Neither one, assistant city clerk? No? Okay, with that, we are adjourned, 7:02.